the Radio Forest Podcast.
Hey, how you doing? Steve calling in?
Steve Shippy, welcome, man. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing really good. Steve is a paranormal investigator. He's got a brand new show coming this Friday to Discovery. Now, first I wanted to ask you, though, Steve, are you still doing any music or have you done anything recently?
Haven't recently, with COVID and all the different things that have kind of slowed down things for a while. I've just been really putting my focus on the documentaries and such.
I noticed on Instagram, DJ Lethal from House of Pain and Limp Bizkit and Sid from Slipknot both follow you.
Yeah, those are actually both friends of mine. It's an interesting story. With Sid from Slipknot, years ago, I was on tour. I was playing in Des Moines with a whole bunch of different artists, and this guy comes up on the bus looking kind of crazy. He had long hair, almost kind of looked like a wig. I couldn't tell. Big, goofy sunglasses, a diamond grill in his mouth, and he's just kind of waving a camera around, and he comes up to me and he says, "Hey, you're in Des Moines. You're in Iowa. What does that make you think of? What do you think about this place?" And I said, "Well, the hometown of one of my favorite bands of all time." He's like, "Yeah, who's that?" I said, "Slipknot." And he looks at me and he goes, "Those guys suck." And I was like, and I literally looked at him and I said, "Typical hometown hater. You can get off my bus now." And I literally told him to get off the bus. Thought nothing of it. Just thought he was some strange individual. And at the end of the show, when Tech Nine takes the stage and does his performance, he says, "Hey, I'm going to bring out one of my friends here tonight, DJ Starscream from Slipknot." And then Sid walks out. It's that same guy that I saw. He takes off the hat, the wig, the sunglasses, and I thought, oh, no. No, later on, he came up to me and he said that was the best response you could have gave me. And I'm kind of glad I did it because, I just thought he was somebody that was hometown hating on one of my favorite bands, and it turned out to be one of the members.
I know. Imagine if you would have been trying to been too nice to like a possible fan of yours, might buy some merch. You're like, "Yeah, man, those guys totally, I like their first stuff, but, Iowa was good, and now the new album sucks."
Became friends, and, he actually went out on the road with me and DJ'd for me on a few different shows on a tour of mine, and then he came up to Michigan to an event, and he had DJ Lethal with him, and then we hung out. I had him over, and we made steaks, and just kind of hung out and became friends with him as well.
Now, how about DJ Lethal then? Those guys are two different styles, even though they're technically both DJs. You got DJ Starscream. He's even been different, Lethal from House of Pain and Limp Bizkit, though. So you got to perform with both of them. Is it a drastic difference, or can they do the same thing the other guy does?
Well, they're definitely drastically different, but what's cool is they had a few projects together where they actually released some content working together as dual DJs, which I thought was really, really cool. There's a really cool synergy between those guys.
That's awesome. And you stayed in touch then with DJ Lethal as well, you're saying?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I still talk to him to this day.
You've got this brand new 2-hour special, Shock Docs, coming Friday to the Travel Channel. Now, let me get this straight. You go back to the 70s. You got a plane that crashes into Florida Evergrades, and then there's been hauntings ever since. Is it in the Everglades or on other planes that use the parts in the crash, or both?
It was both. Flight 401 is literally, they refer to it as the crash, the flight that changed everything. A lot in aviation has changed as a result of what happened that night. But yes, there's certainly activity at the crash site in the Florida Everglades as well as surrounding the parts of this plane.
Was that a general practice to reuse something that wasn't necessarily broken?
Well, I looked into that. I mean, when I first found out that there was sightings of these deceased crew members appearing on other planes, my first thought was, okay, I don't quite understand that. Why these other planes? And then you find out that Eastern Airlines, did in fact repurpose some of these parts. I was shocked. I just couldn't believe that they would do that. But when you really talk to a lot of experts in aviation, they kind of let you know it's not uncommon. They do rigorous testing to make sure that these parts aren't affected, damaged, faulty in any way. And if they're not, because they cost so much, they will repurpose them. True enough, these repurposed parts, from a technical standpoint, were sound and were safe, but they caused a disturbance of another kind.
I just can't imagine. I'm trying to picture somebody like my job working for the airlines. Like, we need you to go to Florida. I need you to get this sunken plane that 100 people died in. I want you to pull out the seats for me. Like, I just can't imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, if you're not in the field or we're not experts in parts or whatever, but there is something quite unsettling about that. I wouldn't want to be on that plane.
You can have intelligent hauntings. These things are aware, can interact with you, can engage with their environment. Then there's like ones that aren't aware. They're just kind of stuck in a time loop. just repeating, walking down a hall or creaking a noise or whatever that might be.
It's a residual haunting.
A residual haunting. But then you also can have objects that can carry a haunting with them. It could be a chair or a house itself or things like that. So is this kind of a mixture of all of that?
I truly believe that this particular case does kind of encompass all of those. Object attachment, intelligent haunting, and residual activity. I saw indication of all three of those.
What did you see? You go down to the crash site with you and Cindy, and you're there investigating.
Yes. Yeah, we went to the crash site in the Florida Everglades. We used devices known as ITC communication, like spirit boxes, geoports, where you can actually hear the words of a spirit come through. We're asking certain questions. We're receiving intelligent responses. We used an SLS device where you're kind of scanning the area with these infrared beams, if you will, that seek out if there's anything three-dimensional. If there is, it'll show an anomaly, kind of like a stick figure, to alert that there's something there. Motion sensors, K2 meter, magnetic field detection, infrared, thermal imaging, full spectrum. We kind of threw the gamut of different devices at this case.
Did you get any EVPs or did you see anything like physically represented?
Oh, absolutely. We caught several disembodied voices, both on the digital recorder, as well as through the geoport, as well as through the spirit box. Our meters were picking up strange anomalies of high magnetic fields that would come and go. We were using trigger objects that we'd placed on tables, things that were representative of that day, of that flight, personal belongings we'd gotten from some of the survivors, and we were getting hits left and right. Cindy Kaza, as a psychic medium, was picking up on spirits, so much information. She was kind of flooded, so to speak. There was just so much coming at her, especially at the crash site.
There also was a crash not too far in there, 592 in 1996. Did you also incorporate that, or did you pick up anything from there, or how close is that?
Well, that's the thing. I don't want to give away too much, but yes, you're right. I mean, there was more than one crash, almost the exact same coordinates. It was very eerie to find out that this kind of pattern was emerging as we were digging deeper and deeper and talking to more people in the aviation industry down in Miami. And one has to wonder, is it coincidence? Is it possibly coincidence, or was there more to it? And that was an avenue that we definitely took.
Did you get into any situations where you kind of needed to slow things down, take a step back, take a break, and walk away, or kind of disassociate with this?
To a degree. I mean, when you're out there at a location like that, and you're all your meters are going off in tandem, and all these devices are doing different things. One's looking for motion of any kind. One is picking up magnetic field. One is monitoring and catching anomalies in temperature fluctuation, disembodied voices. When you have all this stuff happening at one time with all these devices that work in different ways, and you're standing on a location that 101 people perished in this one incident, it's a little overwhelming. It really is.
Now, do you have to check with, or does anybody reach out to you? It reminds me sort of the new Dahmer show, and then the family is like, hey, we're still alive. We're still a family. We're still dealing with this. This also has death associated, people trying to carry on. I mean, 72 is not that far ago, so there's got to be family members. Are they aware of this? Did you talk to any of them?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We talked to family members. We talked to survivors. We got their story. They assisted us and aided us with information and again, letting us even borrow certain items that were key, that had some emotional value that we could bring out there and place on tables and put meters around to see if that would attract anything. And, they were very, very helpful in so many ways, and we were lucky to have their participation and their insight.
So did you talk to survivors that were on the plane?
Absolutely.
It's dark and they're slowly going down. They don't realize, I think like a lights burn out or something. Did the people that survived, were they aware that they were crashing, or all of a sudden they crashed?
They weren't aware at all. In fact, the survivors said the flight was very routine. It was a perfect flight, great conditions. It was a brand new jet, the L-1011. It was kind of a brand new luxury airliner. It was a beautiful plane. It was very plush, very luxurious. The flight was fantastic. They knew something might have been a little askew or whatever when they began kind of circling and they didn't go to the airport, but they thought maybe it could have just been a lot of traffic. It was getting close to Christmas, and they thought, well, maybe there's just a lot of planes trying to land right now. They're probably just going to circle around, and then we'll land and everything is okay. And then all of a sudden, boom, it happens. They had no idea that they were going down.
Steve Shippy is the host of the new 2-hour special Shock Doc Scream Ghosts of Flight 401, premiering Friday, Travel Channel, then Discovery Plus. Steve, I forgot to ask you, did you ever run into Coolio?
Yes, I have met Coolio a couple times. He was very down to earth, very cool, kind of the life of the party type of individual. Anybody could approach him and he would talk to anybody. That's my experience from the few times that I met him at a couple different concerts.
Now, what was your experience working with the Ghost Hunters? How about that?
That was incredible. As a matter of fact, that actually airs the next day. So this coming Saturday at 9 p.m. Eastern on the Travel Channel, as well as streaming on Discovery Plus. The episode I was featured in, called The Cursed Coliseum, is going to air. Those guys, they're OGs, they're veterans, they pioneered this field, they're fantastic investigators. So to me, it was an honor. It really was.
Steve Shippy, an honor to talk to you, man. Thanks for the stories today, and can't wait to watch the show.
All right, thank you so much for having me back.